Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marielle St. Armand, and I am the president of the Greenburgh PTA Council. Welcome, welcome candidates, welcome public, and welcome moderators. The Greenburgh PTA Council presents the 2019 Candidate Night. The Greenburgh PTA Council is made up of our 4 distinctive PTA units. The units are Leah Jackson, President Aaron Jacobson, Highview Elementary School, President Pamela Davis, R.J. Bailey Elementary School, President Mr. Steve Morton, and Woodlands Middle School and High School PTSA, President Kay Jackson. I want to thank all of you for helping arrange this event tonight. I would like to acknowledge the units as well. Please stand up as you are able. Thank you. Tonight there are 6 candidates vying on becoming trustees on the Greenburgh Central School District Board of Education. The candidates are Milena Din, and I'm going alphabetically. There's no specific order. Milena Din, wave please as I as I say your name. Tanya Dragic, Brissetta Griffith Bullock, Lloyd Newman, Ashley Panetta, and Mr. David Warner. Each trustee, if elected, will serve a 3-year term. However, this election, there is a special election because, actually, I'm sorry. However, there is an exception this year because one of the trustees, Claudia Glaser, resigned at the start of the school year. The vacancy prompted a search by the Board of Ed for an interim replacement. The board appointed Mr. Jeff Barnes as an interim trustee until the next election, which is now. Because Mr. Barnes is an interim trustee, he would have to run in the current election to be able to finish out Claudia's term. Mr. Barnes has since opted not to run. As such, there'll be a new person on the board. From the 3 elected candidates, whoever wins 3rd place in the election will finish out Claudia's term. That determination is based on whoever has the 3rd highest number of votes. One of the elected officials will finish out Claudia's term for a year and will have to run again. If they win the 2nd election, they can then serve a full 3-year term. I also want to talk about the Q&A portion of tonight's event. The questions are coming directly from you. As you're entering the cafeteria, you should have received an index card with a pen to write your questions and to hand them over to us. We will have the 2 moderators, which are Odine Magnum, who has 2 children in the district, a PTA member, 2 kids are 5th graders and 10th graders, and then we have Sydney Jackson, who is a student at the high school, and the daughter of the proud Mr. and Mrs. Jackson in the back. We will not, unfortunately, answer every single question, but what we're trying to do is to take or pick the questions that are most asked and put the questions forth to the candidates. Each candidate will have an opening remark of about 5 minutes, and after that, the Q&A portion will start. The Q&A will be done for each of the candidates, and they'll have about a minute to answer each of the questions. There will be no questions accepted on the floor. All the questions have to be handwritten and passed to us first to be able to ask your questions. After the Q&A, there will be closing remarks, and the closing remarks will be for about 2 minutes. Freudian slip there. The closing remarks will be for about 2 minutes. I want to remind you guys that the vote will take place on May 21st, 2019 at this location, but it will be in the gym instead of the cafeteria. The voting polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Please exercise your right to vote. And if you have any questions, and if you feel like your question was not asked during the Q&A, feel free. I'm sure the candidates will be more than happy to speak to you afterwards. Thank you for coming tonight, and let the candidate night begin. So again, we'll go alphabetically by for each of the candidates. So the moderators will let you know when it's time for you to do your opening remarks. Thank you, and have a great night.
Thank you very much, candidates. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Greenburgh Public. Tonight, all of you could have been someplace else at this very time, but you chose to be here because it's important to the school district. So again, thank you very much. As a reminder, each of you will have 5 minutes for opening statements. We will go in alphabetical order, and once time is up, you will hear the alarm. Okay? So, for the sake of time, let's get started. Miljana, D. Can you see her from there? No. Okay. You'll be able to hear. We'll let you know at 30 seconds. Thank you. Awesome. Ready? Go.
Let me make sure this works. Good evening, everyone. My name is Milena Din. I have been a resident of Greenburgh since I brought 3 children to this world. My husband, Javad, and I have 3 children, 2 that are in the high school. One is a senior, and one is in 9th grade, and I have a daughter at Highview. We also have an adopted rabbit from Ms. Belfiere's classroom, who has a zoo in her classroom, and we adopted her last summer. And we also have a rescue greyhound named Luna. I have been a part of the PTA for, maybe 7, 8 years. I have lost count, but I have been a great advocate of our children. I have served on the local level in our schools, from Lee F. Jackson to the high school. Some of you I have worked with. I see some faces, not just locally, but on the region board and at the state level. I served on the executive board. I worked with my peers throughout the state on issues that affect our children currently. We've done some groundwork on diversity, which I was assigned to, the LGBT community of children throughout the state and how they feel on different issues, bullying, etc. I was also asked to participate in the Title I COPS committee, which is in Albany, and I did travel to Albany a few times to sit at these meetings with many representatives of districts throughout the state, and of course of New York City and different boroughs. I have been also active in some of the things that involve policy in our district. This was around the time when my son was in Lee F. Jackson, that's Sebastian, who's in high school, and the response to intervention was just initiated in the state. And by the end of that particular year, in the summer, some of that would have to have been in place. And so we started this conversation with the leadership of the district. At that time, Dr. Chase was not in the district. Soon after, she was. Also, what we know as the science fair, this has become knowing, we initiated that with peers. It didn't start out as that. It's really started as a global arts and music where every child could express themselves in either way. And it was really a great success, and we decided, why don't we do it from the council as an initiative to change subjects? And we did, but it changed to science, and it remained that way because it was just so successful. And we did it here because it brought every parent into the high school, because this is where ultimately they would become seniors. They would have to come to this building, and parents in the community from pre-K to, the high school would come to one place together. So I think it's important that we acknowledge everything that happens in all those years in between and supporting our academics, our current programs, the improvements that can be made, build upon, and of course the conversation of the bond, which was recently defeated, which can be brought back for a conversation that is a great opportunity to revisit with the community, with your ears, with your voices, working together. And I think that's really, really important.
Thank you.
Next, we have Tanya Dragic.
Good evening, everyone. I don't know if this is working, but I have a very strong voice.
It's
So,
not on.
I'd like to thank, you can't hear me? Okay. I'm going to start again. Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank the PTA Council for organizing this event, and thank you, parents, residents, friends, mom and dad, for being here tonight. I'm Tanya Dragic, and I've been a resident of Greenburgh for 10 years. I also spent part of my childhood here and attended Greenburgh schools. In fact, I know this cafeteria very well. I have 3 children of my own. 2 are already in college, and the third is in a neighboring district where her father lives. So I'm running for the school board because I believe that education is everyone's responsibility. So let me start by stating some inconvenient truths. Greenburgh spends more money on instruction per student than any other school district in the town of Greenburgh. In fact, we spend more than any district in Westchester County. And yet we're at the bottom of the pile by every state and national metric. Our English and math proficiency scores are near the bottom third. Our average SAT scores are below college readiness levels. Our infrastructure is run down. You may have heard that U.S. News just published its list of best high schools. 45 in Hudson Valley made that list, but unfortunately Woodlands was not one of them. This is what the outside world sees when they look at us, no matter what the administration says. So we need to work together to change the substance and thereby the perception of our school district. So how do we do this? I believe that a good start would be a major outreach effort to the entire community. Everyone should hear the good news and the bad news about our schools. And the schools should hear what the stakeholders have to say. And stakeholders means parents as well as residents without children. Communication is the key to building trust, and trust is the key to working together to solve problems. And we really will have to work together to improve our schools. First and foremost, we need to improve our education metrics. This means implementing the most engaging academic programs. It means making sure that support programs are actually used by the students who need them most. It means hiring the best teachers to work for us. It means getting parents to push their kids to work hard in school. It means getting residents and local businesses to volunteer in our schools. We also need to get a handle on our budget so that we can repair our buildings and do a better job of maintaining them. If we can achieve these goals, our scores will improve, and we will look better on all those lists that people turn to when they're choosing a school system in which to raise their family, their kids. If we can achieve these goals, we could pass a consolidation bond. So, how can I contribute? As I said at the beginning, I believe that education is everyone's responsibility. So I would like to take on my part of that responsibility by serving on the school board. I'm qualified and I'm motivated to work hard for you. You might ask why. Well, first, because I am a parent. I know the challenges of educating children. I know the work, I know the time commitment, I know the anxiety times 3. Second, I personally have had the enormous fortune of getting an excellent education. I have an international baccalaureate diploma, a degree in biochemistry, and a PhD in molecular biology. And I know that it takes a village to get that kind of an education. Third, I'm an educator. I dedicated the first 12 years of my career to research and teaching graduate and medical students. I know what it takes to keep students awake. And I know the skills that students need to do well in school, to do well in college, to do well in graduate school, and to do well in their professional lives. So tonight, I offer you my parenting experience, my expertise in education, and my enthusiasm to take our district to a higher level. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm waiting for the green light. You must turn yours around.
Oh, sorry.
Press the button. Keep your fingers on it. There we go.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Brizetta Griffith Bullock, and I am pleased to be here as well, and I want to thank the PTA Council. And ironically enough, I would like to thank David Warner and Mr. Newland, because they encouraged me as well. So thank you. So why do I want to run for the school board? I know that I have the depth and the breadth of knowledge to work with the community. As a teacher for 16 years and a principal for decades, I was in Mount Vernon as the first Blue Ribbon Award school. We did a great job. In addition, we had to build a middle school, so I was part of that committee as well. I know what it takes to sit on a committee to watch a school being constructed. I know what it takes to be a part of that team. I also know what it takes to be a great educator, to engage students. My experience in teaching is from kindergarten through high school. Many, many years ago, before a number of you were born, I was in the non-graded classroom, the open classroom. We had no walls. It was wonderful. That didn't last too long, but we loved it. But what I learned from that, this was in Long Island, it lasted maybe 5 years. The community was not apprised as to what it meant, non-graded classrooms. So many years ago, as a new teacher, it still is with me. Why didn't that program fly? Because it was excellent, but the reason was the community. The parents didn't know. They would come to me and say, I would say, well, your child is on level 10. Well, what does that mean? Is that grade 3? Is that grade 6? So early on, I understood what it meant to have the community involved in making these long-term decisions. In addition, I was a union rep. That was interesting for my building. I had a very straightforward and tough principal, but I learned about negotiations. I learned to do my homework, and I understood once again how important it is to have your parents and community support you as a teacher. I was able to, as a principal, I was able to develop budgets. I too hired teachers. I too trained teachers. So I feel I've come full circle because now I'm an adjunct professor at Touro College. What am I teaching? Parenting, foundations of parenting, the connection between school, community, and the parents. I love it. This is my third semester with them. And I give them assignments like this to come out and sit at meetings. Tell us what we can do to engage parents. So if you can entrust me to represent you, I understand that you need to be a part of what we do, the decision-making process. And I understand about consensus. We may not all agree, and that's fine. But consensus means, can you live with the decisions that we make? We'll see. In addition, when we talk about community, I can only tell you again, many years ago, when we had a bond and I was a teacher, we had our children make signs and go through the neighborhood. Can't do that now. So we have to find different ways to bring you, the community, and the stakeholders into our schools. We have to get ideas from you. And we're always open. I'm a good listener. I'm a great evaluator. I am engaging, and I love education. I know that that is the key. I don't mind giving workshops. I love that part. So I would hope that you can entrust your vote for me. And I thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for all coming out here tonight to listen to the candidates and their perspective and their vision for the district. I am running for re-election for a seat on the Greenburgh Central School Board of Education. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the PTA for sponsoring Candidates Night and for inviting all the candidates to meet the community and to discuss their plans and their vision for the schools. After 46 years of service in the healthcare, I recently retired January of this year from Jacobi Medical Center as a manager of the Department of Diagnostic and Interventional Radiology, Bronx, New York. My wife and I, Jamie Newland, have been a resident of Fairview, Greenburgh for 43 years and are proud parents of 3 children, Christina, Michael, and Sonia, and a granddaughter, Maya. All of her children attended Greenburgh Central School District from K to 12. Maya also attended GC7, K to 12, and graduated from Woodlands High School in 2000 and have already completed 1 year of college. So I've been a somewhat satisfied customer of Greenburgh. I was elected and served 6 terms on GC7 Board of Education, including 8 years as board president, 2 years as vice president. I participated and have held leadership positions in numerous community organizations, including Hillside Windover Civic Association, where I served as president for 16 years. I was also the founder of the Greenburgh Foundation. That was an educational foundation that was created to sponsor program in the Greenburgh School that the budget didn't cover. Now that organization is dissolved. I have served and advocated for education need for all our community children for the past 19 years on the Board of Education. My running for re-election for the Board of Education will allow me to continue working and advocating for the education of all our children and to continue working for my vision to transform Greenburgh Central 7 School to a high performance and academics for all our students. I strongly believe that a school board must be responsive, receptive to parents, staff, students, and the community at large, and encourage an open dialogue. The board must take input from all stakeholders and weigh all the facts before making a decision that could impact our student and staff. In 2000, when I ran for the School Board of Education, my vision and determination was to change the negative perception and the image that some of our community members had about regarding to our schools, and also to transform GT7 to one of the best schools in Westchester. My strong leadership ability, consensus building, focus on students, and the support of the board. I was successful in changing the negative culture of our district, teaching staff, administration, superintendent, by holding everyone accountable for their job performance, including students and parents who were held accountable for their responsibility and academic performance. Today, I'm very proud to announce our students are doing well academically. Not as good as some of us would like, but I've seen, from the time I've been on the board, I've seen a great improvement. Our graduation rate this year increased to 96th percentile. 97% of our students are accepted in 2- and 4-year colleges and university. 2% of our graduates seeks employment, and 1% join the military. Our dropout rate is less than 1% as a result of the SAT prep class that was implemented over the last 3 years. There was a significant increase in our junior class test score, and between the administration and teaching staff successfully coordinate efforts and resources to build trust and transparency to relate the community. Thank you.
Next, we have Ashley Pineda.
Good evening, all. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend this important event. A school board is charged with overseeing arguably the most critical component affecting our community, the education of our children. In Westchester County, a neighborhood's image is deeply intertwined with the reputation of the school district. The first thing I heard when I settled in Greenburgh 9 years ago was, don't send your kids to Greenburgh Central Schools. I heard this from strangers, from some neighbors, and I even heard it from a Home Depot cashier the day of our closing. I myself am the product of a public school education. I grew up in the Bronx and went from pre-K through high school. From high school in the Bronx, I went on to a 4-year university and ultimately on to graduate school at Columbia University. At Columbia, I studied a Master's of Public Administration, similar to an MBA, but with the focus on the public sector. I knew that one day I would like to give back to my community, which brings us to today. My son, 6 years old, was not getting the little extra support he needed in his private school due to a lack of resources. My wife and I decided to make an immediate change. We enrolled him into Lee F. Jackson about 2 weeks into the school year. With the little extra attention from his teachers, I am very happy to state that my son achieved grade reading level in less than 6 months. My son has come a long way, and it was a group effort. He is a perfect example of how successful students can be with the right school, dedication, and resources. He is now an avid reader and teaches us at home everything he can, to the point of sitting us down, reading books to us, and asking us reading comprehension questions as if he is our teacher. The progress my son has made in our public school has well exceeded our expectations. I believe in our public school system and the journey our district is currently undergoing. I want to be clear. The choice of where to send each of our precious children is a very personal matter, and no one can pass judgment on that, as we must all choose what makes the most sense for our family. To families that are considering whether they should try the public school district out, I say try it, and I believe you too will be a satisfied customer. We are teaching children to speak Mandarin in kindergarten. We just rolled out a pilot of one-to-one Chromebooks for some grades, and in January, our high school was giving international baccalaureate certification, making us a full K-12 IB school district, one of 9 in the country. Research indicates that full K-12 IB district graduates complete college faster than their peers, feel more prepared for college-level coursework, and are better able to cope with demanding workloads and time management. Our district has amazing programs and opportunities that all of our children can be taken advantage of. I am not a politician, and I am nowhere near as experienced as many of the other individuals running for the board. What I do bring, however, is a fresh perspective. Since I am coming in with an open mind, there is one overarching theme with my candidacy, and that is, my children go here. Any success our district achieves is a success for our children, the Greenburgh community, and a success for my children as well. I also have both the private and public school experience. Having this perspective will help me ensure I take all points of view into account. Now that I have stated some great things about our district, there is room for improvement. One major issue which some may not be aware of is the low level of state aid that the GCSD school district receives. By state aid, I am referencing fair funding for our school district, from building funds, which could help with our aging facilities, to the much bigger issue of general district funding. Unfortunately for the school districts of New York, a politically manipulated version of the aid formula is used every year.
30 seconds.
The formula is based on year 2000 census data and measures communities' wealth using imperfect methods. In a recent prospective school board member workshop I attended, I had a brief conversation with one of the Ossining school board members and asked him how Ossining was able to rightfully receive an increase to their state funding. For Ossining, it was a fight, both locally and in Albany, with 50 concerned parents taking the trip to the Capitol and voicing their concerns, along with banding together with
Your
other
time's up.
districts. Thank you.
Next, we have David Warner.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us. I'm David Warner. I'm working to support quality education for our children. My goals include maintaining a positive learning environment, improving academic achievement, and improving communications with district stakeholders. My wife Angela and I have lived in Hartsdale for 19 years. We're a diverse family, and we chose to come to Greenburgh after touring the schools and finding that here academics are respected and diversity is celebrated. We have one daughter who attended Greenburgh CSD schools from kindergarten through high school, graduating from Woodlands in 2014, was awarded scholarship money, obtained a bachelor's degree, and is now attending graduate school. I, too, am a satisfied customer, and I want the generation coming up behind me to have an experience that is as good or better than the one we had. I'm a retired software engineer. I have a BA in English and an MS in computer science. I obtained a secondary school teaching credential in English in 1984 after student teaching in the Santa Ana School District in Southern California. I then chose to pursue a career in technology. Over the next 3 decades, I became a technical editor, a technical writer, and then a software engineer, working for a Fortune 500 company, Unisys, and later Timeplex. As my daughter progressed through our district schools at GCSD, I volunteered for the School Reorganization Task Force, Highview Homework Help, the Community Engagement Committee, and the PTA Council. I was then elected to the Board of Education, where I've served as a trustee, then vice president, and currently as the board president. While on the board, I've helped establish an advanced learning program, ALP, for grades 1 through 6 in ELA, math, and science. So let me explain. If you look closely at our test scores at the overall for the elementary schools are probably in the 30s, which is not terribly great. If you look at the test scores at Highview, they're up in the 50s and 60s, and then they suddenly drop off when you hit R.J. Bailey. And what is happening, I believe, is that there were no advanced programs, so people pulled their kids. So the scores go down because people pull their kids. It's not that people are pulling their kids because the scores go down. Things feed on each other. If you have advanced programs all the way up, people who leave now will stay. And then as a result of that, our average will be pulled up. So we're in the process of taking care of that at one level. I also supported approval for the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program at Woodlands coming in the fall of 2019. This is a campaign goal of mine in 2016. That's going to give us academic rigor in addition at the high school level. Maintain our academics at the secondary level. Our 2018 Woodlands Annual English Regents proficiency is 91%, Algebra is 72%, Earth Science is 85%, and U.S. History is 87%. Our Regents scores look a lot better than our scores for our earlier grades. Restore a full-time librarian to Lee F. Jackson and hire a dean of students at Woodlands. Leverage state aid to upgrade fire alarms, science stations, improve the safety of R.J. Bailey and Highview parking lots, and restore the Highview and Woodlands gymnasiums. By the way, I should mention something about the cost per student. If you're hoping for a better financial organization and lowering the cost per student to use that to finance new programs, the whole $38,000 per child thing is false. It's an average. You have, we spend about $16,000 per general ed student and $52,000 per special education student. We have a high percentage of special education students, so when you average them out, they come out to $38,000.
Right.
But for the regular student, we spend about as much as they do in Terrytown. So you're not going to get a big kick out of financial reorganization, or at least to the extent you think you are, and we're not financially out of whack. Okay. I promoted improved technology, STEM offerings for our students as a member of the Technology Committee, Codapillars, Dot and Dash robots, Makerspaces, Coding Week, now Talking Robots, Robotics Team, ACE Mentoring Program, Tri-County Science Fair, Science Extravaganza. We have a second-place trophy in biology from the 2012 Westlake Science Fair, the last time we started on the science research track. Westlake was for 10th graders in the first year of what is now the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair competition. At that time, we determined we needed to regroup and start educating students in science competition beyond our district, starting at a younger age. Our recent participation in the Tri-County Science Fair with students from Bailey and Middle School means that we're ready to try again.
30 seconds.
I support integrating curriculum materials using the PLC model. I support promoting experiential learning through the WISE task force. I support the universal design for learning. I support improving communication with the community by chairing monthly meetings for the Community Engagement Committee. I support negotiation of fiscally conservative teachers' contracts to avoid teacher layoffs while keeping the budget under the New York State tax cap. Going forward, I will pursue academic improvement, continue to advocate for equitable state aid for our district, work with the community to find solutions for our facilities
Your time is
issues. I'm David Warner. Thank you.
Well done, candidates. Well done in speaking your truth and giving the public some insight into who you are as a candidate. At this point, we're going to move on to Q&A. The questions have all come from the public, and we will try to get through as many as possible. Again, as stated at the top, we will take each question. We will present it to the candidates, and the candidates have 60 seconds to answer. Do as best as you can within that 60 seconds. Let's be clear, let's be concise, and we'll start in alphabetical order, beginning with Miss Meliana Din.
How have you been involved in the lives of students in Greenburgh Central School District?
I have, I have engaged in the lives of students through the PTA since my children were in Lee F. Jackson, in building programs that were driven to bring them together, offering working obviously with the principal and making sure that we brought things that we're actively mindful of entertaining, but also learning. As we got higher, then I participated in events that brought science and technology and all of that together when we started the science projects.
Thank you very much.
1 minute.
Okay, so I have not been involved directly in the lives of Greenburgh students because my children did not attend this district. I've been involved, obviously, in the lives of my own children. So this is definitely something that I would have to catch up on as a candidate. I would have to really learn about these children, learn more about the schools, speak to the principals and to the teachers. But what I have to say to you is that this is one of the reasons why your board has 7 members, so that there are people who have a diversity of expertise and experience, and not everyone necessarily has to have the same experiences and expertise in order to contribute effectively to the board. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Well done. Next up, we will present the same question to Ms. Rosetta Griffith-Bullock.
All right, so I am an avid reader. I love to read. So when it was presented to me, we all familiar with Scholastic books? They have them at the school. I was right there at Leaf Bailey, and I had such a, I can't even tell you, the joy to watch children and encourage children to pick books out and to open them and read to me. Do I like this one? Do you like this one? Those are wonderful things. So in addition to that, indirectly, I am a member of the Community Engagement Committee, so I love that. But you will see me through the schools. In addition, I love to hear children sing and dance. So I have attended a lot of the high school presentations. And I look forward, that's a great part of being a board member, because I remember as a principal, board members would come to all of our events. So that's what I would do. You will get tired of seeing me.
Thank you.
But that won't stop me.
How have you been involved in the lives of students in Greenburgh Central School District? How have you been involved in the lives of students in Greenburgh Central School District?
Again, this question is presented to candidate.
Okay, I've been involved in the life of students in Greenburgh, I would say over 35 years. I had 3 of my children went through, they're all adults now, they went through K to 12, and I was involved in their education. As a matter of fact, even though I wasn't on the board, I make it my duty to come to PTA meetings, any gathering, and monitor my kids to make sure that things are going very well. I was also on the Greenburgh Scholarship Committee. I was a trustee, and I was in the trustees for maybe about 6 or 8 years. And in 2000, I decided to run for the board when my last child graduated. And since then, I've been involved in the children's education up until this point. Like I said, I was on the board now for about 19 years. I've served in leadership capacity and chair various committee, the budget committee, and also the fiscal committee.
Thank you very much.
Right.
And we will present the same question to candidate Ashley today.
Thank you. I ran for the school board when the position finally formally held by Claudia Glazer opened up. I also ensured I was part of the Capital Bond District proposal videos. I spoke with various of my neighbors to elicit some feedback and get some of their ideas as to what could happen with the bond. I've also spent a lot of time with some of the children in the district that are friends of my son, but I don't have a lot of experience with the children of Greenburgh as of yet. I'm hoping to change that. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, we will present the same question to candidate David Warner.
All right. I was involved with my daughter in various projects as a regular dad. So I remember the Highview Science Fair in which we created a volcano inside an aquarium, and she caused ash to blow out the top of the volcano at the fair. I remember that if I had a $1 billion project in math at R.J. Bailey. I remember the Esagila creating a model of the Tower of Babel in early high school. I remember getting involved in a science research project. I also did homework help for 2 years on Fridays with the Highview students. And so they would stay in from recess and we would figure out what they hadn't got done on the homework the previous night and take care of that. So some students remember me from that. I also was a WISE mentor 5 different times. So in WISE, you come up with whatever project you want and your mentor helps you with it. So Major League Gaming, camouflage, and baking are 3 of the projects. Fair enough.
Well done, candidates. We will now move on to the second question. And the question is this: did you support the bond vote in March? Why or why not? And we will start with Ms. Elena Din.
You want that in 1 minute?
Yeah, elevator speech.
You haven't started the clock, have you?
Microphone?
Your mic.
Yes, I did support the bond. I think it's important to realize that the much-needed improvements that we need in the buildings, and that also will bring academics. I think it's a package deal. It's a conversation to be had now that it's been defeated, but I did support it. I see the benefits of having a congruent group of students and grades in one place. And yes, it is a financial burden. I think it came at a terrible time when we had land taxes imposed upon us. You know, we couldn't declare more than 10,000 on any property. So that, I think, had a great influence. But I think it's a conversation to be had as to the benefits of what's best for every student in the district. It's something that's not failed. I think it needs your participation, our conversation to be had together. It's our voices together that can make that happen in the future. It's not, I don't see it as a complete defeat. I see it as an opportunity, real opportunity to do what is best for every child in terms of their education and their future.
Time.
It's all of us together.
Thank you very much. Now, we will pose the same question. Did you support the bond vote in March? Why or why not? And this will go to Tanya Johnson.
I did not support the bond, and I didn't support it for the same reason that I think the vast majority of Greenburgh residents didn't support it. I felt that we were not fully informed and that we did not have all the necessary elements to really agree to spend what would have effectively have amounted to almost $250 million when we took into account the principal, the interest, and on top of it, what was needed for the repairs of the high school. I also felt that buildings do not educate children and that money would be better spent increasing the level of education of our children. That does not mean that in the future I would not support a bond, but it would have to be within the context of a conversation with the entire community, and
10
it would have to
seconds.
be, we would need a lot more transparency than we had in this past round. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now present the same question to Ms. Brazetta Griffith Bullock.
Thank you. And yes, I did support the bond. Based on research, Abraham Maslow says, it's really important. There's a triangle. And it says, if you want children to learn, they have to be in a safe and comfortable environment, just like you. So while our children are doing well, they don't need to be in a place where the windows look like this. They don't need that. They need to be in a place of comfort because it sends a message to the students and the staff that you care about them when they are in a safe, aesthetically pleasing building. I believe buildings do matter. When you drive up to your home, you want it to look nice, you want curb appeal. When we drive up to these beautiful grounds,
10
and then I
seconds.
see the school, it's not fair. The children, the students, and the staff, they need a good building, but we do need your input, so, thank you.
Time. Next up, candidate Lloyd Newland.
Yes, I supported the bond. Like I said, I'm a longtime resident. This is about the fourth time our district have made an attempt to either renovate or modernize our school. Matter of fact, before I got on the board, there was 2 attempts by previous boards. And it was a much smaller amount of money that we were talking about. And the community came out and rejected it. One, I think certain community people were territorial and protective of their schools and did not want to do anything to the school. When I became president of the board, I had a plan, the board put a plan together to renovate our schools again.
10
And at the
seconds.
time we were going up for referendum, the town put up the library for bonding. And at the time, Chuck Barnes was alive then, was the vice president, and we
Time.
decided that
Thank
it
you very
would cost
much.
the taxpayers too much money, and we withdrew it.
Thank you. Next up, candidate Ashley Pineda.
I did support the bond. I recorded videos for it. As we all saw, the capital bond was defeated 2-1. Clearly, we missed a big step. In my conversations with neighbors, residents of the school district with children, residents with children in private schools, there was one theme I consistently heard. While the design was inspired, the process that was followed failed to involve stakeholders until later in the game.
I agree.
Moving forward, we need to ensure we have input from them from the very beginning. We need to recall that in this case, the stakeholders are not just district parents with children, but all taxpayers in the school district. The new bond will pass if the community is vested in it. In my view, the only way to achieve that is to have true stakeholder involvement from the ground level. Otherwise, we are destined to repeat the past.
10 seconds. Thank you. Lastly, candidate David Warner.
Yes, I supported the bond. The schools were falling apart, especially in the winter. We had a variety of facilities closures. We kept evacuating the students from one school to another or to the community center. We had been trying to repair things slowly while fighting for greater state aid at the state level, and we would make it through with a piece of legislation in the Assembly and always get stuck in the Senate. We finally ran out of time. There got to be too many facilities disasters, so we decided that we need to go forward. We did get defeated 2-1. I think the bond was too expensive, and we need to communicate better with the public and involve them in the decision-making process as to what we go out with, and we need to fight for more state aid. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done, candidates. We will now move on to the second question. Excuse me, the third question. And Ms. Milena Den, you're going to get a reprieve because you've been going first the entire time. So now we will go in reverse order so that way we can, I guess, spread the love. So the third question is,
how would you motivate those in the community who do not have children or don't have children in the school district?
I didn't hear that. Again, please?
How would you motivate those in the community who do not have children or don't have children in the school district? Candidate David Warner.
Okay. When I was out having my nominating petition filled out, I ran into a particular civic association, and had a long conversation about the bond specifically. And basically, they were a group of snowbirds who go to Florida every summer and wish they could sell their houses to families with young children, but they can't get the amount of money for their homes that they think they deserve. And the problem with that is, of course, that they think if the test scores went up by a significant amount, then their home values would go up. So I think what we need to do is get them to understand that whatever plan we come up with will raise the test scores, and then they'll support us. That's it.
Thank you. I'll read the question again. How would you motivate those in the community who do not have children or don't have children in the school district? Ashley Pineda.
I think the key to having people feel motivation is to truly show them and communicate with them what we're doing. Parents in the private schools have a perception of the Greenburgh Central School District as, fledgling and not achieving standards, which we know is not true. Residents of the community have that same idea in their mind. I think we do a good job now of reaching out to those individuals, but I think we need to do more to go out to them, go out to the senior centers, go out to the churches, go out to where they are and show them all the progress we've made and what our vision we believe it will
10 seconds.
be. And I think that way we will truly motivate them, we will inspire them.
Thank you. Candidate Lloyd Newland.
Yes, I would convince these folks that their home is an investment. It's an investment that they invested in many years. And if we have a bad school system where people don't want to move this into this community, especially younger children, parents with younger children, they would look elsewhere. And a lot of seniors would get stuck with their homes, can't sell it, or can't sell it for the fair market value. So by supporting our schools, improving the academics, will bring them a return, a good return on their homes when they get ready to sell it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Candidate Brazetta Griffith Bullock.
Thank you. I'm all one for optics and public relations. So what I would do, and what we started to do regarding the Community Engagement Committee, the students' work would be posted, artwork would be posted, or their writings would be posted in the libraries, in town hall, in the banks, so that when people go about their daily activities, they are looking at the progress and the work of the students in our district. You have to show what the children are doing. Now, someone said something about going to the senior centers. Sure, have children go to the senior centers, have their community service, that would be part of it, but also have the work, display children's work. That's what people want to see, and that will promote them to say, oh,
10 seconds.
I've seen the work. Surely I will pass the budget, because it's tangible. They see a result.
Thank you. Candidate Tanya Dragic.
So I think that this is really a key issue. This community involvement in Greenburgh, there are about 9,000 households in Greenburgh. They all pay into the public education system, and therefore they all have a vested interest in its success. So how do we reach out to all of these people and get them interested and get them to participate and to support their schools? And I actually have some very specific ideas that range from actually really making an effort to mail quarterly newsletters to every single household in Greenburgh, trying to get people to sign up for email lists, get on social media, get them to volunteer, as well as some of the other ideas, like having the kids go to senior centers, exposing their artwork, basically whatever it takes to get people to feel connected to the schools and to the children in the schools. Thank you.
I think the best way to really reach our community is to be in our community. So that means that I would have to go out and be in your community, talking to all your members, to everyone, to have a conversation of what your concerns are, what your ideas, what do you think of us, what do you think is out there. Give us, it's a mutual communication to building a trustworthy relationship that you can see the benefits of both, that we can actually take those items and bring them back and have a conversation. But ultimately, what we want is the best education for every child, and passing a budget is crucial to continuing the education that we can have,
10
or the
seconds.
best education for every child. So communication is a key.
Thank you very much. Now, the next question is very specific and to a specific candidate that was submitted from someone in the other group. And this is posed to candidate Tanya Dragic. Why were you against the bond? What will you do to correct the aging facilities if you are elected?
Okay, so I think that I already explained what my position on the bond was, and I also stated that I am not necessarily against all bonds, all future bonds, but I think that we have to get there as a school district and also as a community together. In the meantime, I think that we need to basically repair what we have. Repair and make sure that we maintain it. And in order to do those repairs, I am actually in favor of hiring outside expertise to take a close look at our schools, to make a line-by-line list of all the repairs that are needed, and then for those repairs to be done either from the school budget or if necessary by issuing a small bond.
10 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question. With the community quite divided on the school district currently, what steps will you take to bring the community together to share a positive view of Greenburgh Central School District?
You're going to have to repeat that.
Okay.
Thank you.
With the community quite divided on the school district currently, what steps will you take to bring the community together to share a positive view of Greenburgh Central School District? Candidate David Warner.
Okay, so there are all the things that we did in our last bond effort, because things were very quiet until the bond. And what we had been doing was that we stopped being so much the victim of the media as the media started to, the big media, the newspaper started to sort of decline, and instead we were able to put out our own message on the internet. So we would post things on our website, we would post things on Facebook, we would reach out to the community electronically in various ways because the younger generation is kind of doing that. That turned out not to be good enough for the entire bond effort because not everybody is of that generation. I do things with email because I'm from that generation. So what needs to happen is we need to reach
10
out
seconds.
to people in whatever mode of communication they need and knock on doors if we have to.
Thank you. I'll read the question again. With the community quite divided on the school district currently, what steps will you take to bring the community together to share a positive view of Greenburgh Central School District? Candidate Ashley Pineda.
So there are three keys in my mind: understanding, listening, and communication. I think the reason that community is so divided on their perception of the school right now is they're not hearing what's happening. They're not able to speak their mind, potentially. They're not coming to our meetings. And we're not having enough of a dialogue between us. I have one foot in various different areas, right? I have one foot in the public district. I know many other private school parents. I know many of regular taxpayers, and I think what we need to do is, again, engage them, request
10
and solicit
seconds.
their feedback, and engage in honest communication. That's the key.
Thank you. Candidate Lloyd Newland.
Yes, I would take a much longer time to plan any project of that size and cost with the community. I think communication is very important. I would also involve the town and all stakeholders in that discussion. And I would probably start off by sending out a survey just to get a feedback from people or from the residents. What would they willing to support? And would they sit at the table and have a healthy discussion with all of us to come up with a plan to renovate or build a new school? It's important that
10
the
seconds.
community have trust, and we also should be transparent and try and involve everybody.
Thank you. Candidate Tanya Dragic.
You're going to have to repeat that question because I'm not sure that it's actually about the bond. I think it's more just in general. Yeah.
With the community quite divided on the school district currently, what steps will you take to bring the community together to share a positive view of Greenburgh Central School District?
Okay. So I think that actually our community is divided for a number of different reasons. One is that, as I mentioned, there are 9,000 households and only about 1,000 of them actually use the public schools, and there are probably another 300 to 400 that use private schools. So that's the first level of division. The second is that we actually have about 20% seniors in the community, which is actually a significant percentage compared to other communities, and that's also a source of division. So, and then we have a large number of residents who simply do not have children and so are not necessarily very interested in what goes in the schools. But as I said, and I'm going to say it again, every single household pays into the public school system and therefore has a vested
10
interest in
seconds.
its success. So honest communication is key, and vigorous communication is key.
Thank you. Candidate Brazetta Griffith Bullock.
Thank you. So I am one of those households where I do not have children, but we are totally interested because I am that summer parent. You know, so I am interested. But you need a structure. So when we talk about openness, you need a structure, we need a survey, we need to analyze the data, and then we need to have, after we analyze the data, those small neighborhood meetings. You start small and then you expand. Because at the small meetings, we can communicate, we can talk. And we would have facilitators at the meetings. This is what, again, we talk about research. Dr. James Comer, he is the community person. He says that we have to have the community involved, and you start small in your areas, and then you get larger and larger. Excuse me.
10 seconds.
So that's what we would do, have a structure.
Thank you. Candidate Milena Din.
I commit to communicating. That would be my entire commitment to you. Off-site community engagement, bi-monthly, in your communities. All the communities that I can go to. That's what I commit to. Because I think that's what we really need to communicate. To be in the group, whatever it may be, where you can voice your opinion. And I know I said that before, but I reiterate, communicating is huge. Hugely needed to hear your voices, what you think, and that's really what I commit to.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Now we will go on to the next question, and we will start at the top of the order as we did at the beginning of the other evening. The next question is, what can we do to fix our buildings? And this will be directed towards this Candidate Milena Din.
I had a conversation with our Assistant Superintendent of Business because that's exactly what I was interested in knowing what it will take to fix building. Just to fix windows, roofs, the bare necessities. She said it would be a minimum of $79 million to fix these buildings. I personally think that rebuilding would be a much more economical, even if you spent 114. But we all don't share that thought. And here we are, having this conversation. I think it's a conversation that needs to be had once someone's in and you have a complete board, that you need to revisit and hear your voices and how to fix this. Because we do need buildings that are safe
10
and with the
seconds.
space, enough space for our children. So I think it's a conversation and an opportunity to have that conversation again.
Thank you. We will pose the same question. What can we do to fix our buildings? To candidate Tanya Dragic.
Right, so I've also heard from the district this number of $79 million that would be required to repair and to renovate and to a certain extent to upgrade the current buildings that we have. I don't know if that's a realistic number or not. I don't really know where that number comes from. So that would be where I would start, is to get a realistic number. And for that, as I mentioned earlier, we would need to hire an engineering firm that would actually go through the buildings and make a line-by-line list of all the repairs, the ones that are necessary for just simple safety and comfort, and then the ones that would be good to have to bring our children into a modern learning environment.
10 seconds.
I'm done.
Thank you. Next up, the question is presented to candidate Brazetta Griffith Bullock.
I too agree that we need to have an independent study of certified engineers to assess what can be fixed and to get some type of guarantee that this will be lifelong, whatever that would mean. However, some things you cannot fix. So those things that cannot be fixed, we do need to replace. So I think that we just have to take a hard line. You don't want your children with leaky walls. You don't want that. So that's what I would do.
Excellent, thank you. Again, the question is, what can we do to fix our buildings? And this will go out to candidate Lloyd Newland.
Yes, well, what the board has been doing in the past, and we still continue to do it, we try to put extra money in the budget, and monies that are not spent, that was appropriated for other programs, we use that and put it into fixing things in the schools. But we have 5 schools, and the buildings are at the end of life, and you must really ask yourself, does it pay to spend good money fixing up an old antiquated school that's probably going to last 10 years more the life, or you build a new structure that's going to last for the next century? And so therefore, I know that's a tough decision. Now, the way we approached it, maybe we need to do it
10 seconds.
phase by phase. And like you say, we already got the engineer study, and we know exactly what needed to be done, and that's where that 79 million came from.
Thank you. Next up is candidate Ashley Pineda.
I've heard that our buildings can be repaired, but at a very significant cost. I do share the sentiment also that you get to a certain point with your house where you outgrow it. And you can do whatever you want. You can add on an extension, you can keep trying to build, but you're still not going to fit properly because it's not designed that way. I think at the point that we're at, if we did not get a bond passed, maybe we start by prioritizing the buildings that are in most dire need, such as R.J. Bailey, with all the repairs it needs, and maybe take it one building at a time. ideally, in a perfect world, we would get a bond passed, and we wouldn't be doing patchwork.
Thank you. And lastly, candidate David Warner.
Okay, so where did the $79 million come from? We had an independent engineering company do a survey and five-year capital plan for us, as we were required by law to do. They came out with a price tag of $70 million. We then ran that by CS Arch, who was looking at our consolidation project. They said, we can't do it for $70 million, we can do it for $79. That's where the $79 million came from. Going forward, if the only option is to fix things, which I don't think is the only option, then you would fix the roofs first, because water is the enemy. No matter how much you fix up the insides, water gets in there and destroys things again and again. We also can have an energy performance contract to make some repairs. We are pursuing that now. The process is better now than it was before the state got involved to provide guarantees. But going forward, yes, we will update our costs, and if we have to repair, we'll repair.
Thank you.
The next question is, what ideas do you have to increase the diversity of the teaching staff in our schools? Candidate Milena Din.
I thought we already had a diverse staff.
That's what I thought.
I said I thought we already had a diverse staff. The hiring process, which is really done by administration, to hire a more diverse staff, they're the ones who bring us all these teachers from different areas, thus having the children learn Mandarin and bringing in other teachers from different places. But I believe the administrators are the ones who bring us from different areas, our teachers that can be diverse.
Thank you. The question is, again, what ideas do you have to increase the diversity of the teaching staff in our schools? Candidate Tanya Dragic.
So I, too, was under the impression that our staff was pretty diverse. So I think that my ideas when it comes to hiring turn more to the quality of the staff rather than to the diversity. I think it's great to have diversity. I think we need it. We want it. It comes naturally, considering that we are a diverse nation. But the important thing is to hire the best possible staff in our schools.
Thank you. Candidate Brazetta Griffith Bullock.
Well, with the internet now, I know that we can cast a wider net. So if you have a wider net, you can get more candidates from different places. And again, if you have a structure in place, you want the best candidate, wherever the person is from, whatever the person looks like. So my suggestion would be just cast a wider net. I was recruited from South Carolina many, many years ago. People came down from New York to the college. So again, that was old school, but it worked. It's been 40 years. Wasn't supposed to say that, but it's been a while. So again, you just cast a wider net, yes.
Thank you. Candidate Lloyd Newland.
Yes, this is an issue that time to time came up on the board and concerns by our residents. We need to cast a wider net, and I think we advertise in no loss, and we need to go out to some schools and start recruiting, because there's not a whole bunch of teachers out there anymore. So we need to go out to universities and college and recruit minorities that are qualified. We just don't want to get somebody because they're diverse. And I really think that we have a diverse school, and the teachers who stand in front of these kids to educate them must be also diverse. So I would go out and, like you said, cast a wider net, work with a college and university, to bring more diverse teachers in our school. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Ashley Pineda.
I think we need to truly look at the pool of talent. We live in a dense metropolitan area. Kind of hard for me to believe that we can't find more of the candidates we're looking for. We need to attract the best talent, and to do that, you need to ensure that the pay is attractive, the benefits are attractive, and the teachers feel a true vested interest in this community and the children. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate David Warner.
Okay. In going in and looking at classes at some of the schools, I found that the teachers were not as diverse as the teaching assistants and the teacher aides. So our diversity is fine there, and the problem is that more teacher aides and teaching assistants need to be able to have a career path to get up to the point at which they're teachers. So the long-term way to solve the problem is to make it possible or facilitate methods for people that are already in the community to become full-fledged teachers. And that will take care of the thing long-term. We tried it before with TSTT, but too many people sort of left, although I think we might try it again because the few candidates we've gotten back from that have been to our advantage. And we also need to make sure that people on the hiring committees are diverse.
Thank you. And we have another question that has been submitted and directed towards candidate Tanya Dragic. The question is this: please give specific and proven successful ways you can raise test scores K to 8 and lower per pupil spending. Highlight both the general and special education spending.
Whoa, that's really
That's
long.
a lot.
Could you,
Yes.
could you start that again?
We'll break it up into parts.
Sections, yeah.
Please give specific and proven successful ways you can raise test scores K to 8 and lower per pupil spending.
Okay, well, I'm not sure that I'm really looking to lower per pupil spending. So I'm just going to abdicate on that part of the question. Regarding raising test scores, this is really a very complicated question because the reason that the test scores are not good are diverse. So all I can say is, or all I can really talk about is actually my kind of general education philosophy, which I think is made up of proven approaches that work when it comes to student performance. And that is a combination of demanding discipline and hard work from students. In other words, to have high expectations going in. It's to have a rigorous, fact-based curriculum. In other words, you can't think
10 seconds.
unless you have building blocks for thoughts. And finally, I think that you need to teach students to think critically and creatively about the information they're learning, and that starts all in kindergarten.
Thank you very much. And in all fairness, candidate Warner had previously highlighted the general and special education spending. But thank you so much for submitting that question. That was rather difficult to answer in 60 seconds.
The next question. How many Greenburgh Central School District Board meetings have you attended during the 2018 to 2019 school year? Candidate Milena Din.
Physically, none.
Candidate Tanya Dragic.
I attended more meetings than I can remember, and honestly, it's a blur, and I don't remember which were board meetings and which were bond meetings and which were in-between meetings, but I've been to many, yeah.
Candidate Brizetta Griffith Bullock.
I can say one I know of that I recall.
Candidate Lloyd Newland.
I gotta get my calculator out. Well, Thinking of the 19 years I'm on this board, I think I might have missed 3.
That's better.
Candidate Ashley Pineda.
Yeah.
Physically, board meetings 1, virtually all of 2018 to 2019 at this
Look
point,
them.
and a few of the bond meetings.
Candidate David Warner.
I'm the board president. I haven't missed a meeting, so all of them.
Thank you very much. Now, on to the next question. And I guess we will start with candidate David Warner. In your own words, please describe the current physical condition of R.J. Bailey and Highview schools. What suggestions do you have to improve their conditions?
Okay, so R.J. Bailey has asbestos problems. Am I cutting out? Okay. So R.J. Bailey has periodic plumbing issues, and it has roof leaks. So as a result of these two things, whenever something leaks, you have to check to see if there's any asbestos insulation, you have to see if there's any lead in the paint, you have to make sure that there's not a particular problem that you can't solve. If it doesn't work, if you have an asbestos problem, you have to evacuate the rooms that are associated with it, and sometimes the entire building. The furnace is probably not in the greatest shape, although we were able to repair it somewhat. Highview has problems with single pane glass and a furnace system that's actually a set of converted coal burners from the 1950s.
10 seconds.
Okay. Both schools need help. R.J. Bailey needs more help than Highview.
Thank you. Next, we will pose the same question to candidate Ashley Pineda. In your own words, please describe the current physical condition of R.J. Bailey and Highview schools. What suggestions do you have to improve their conditions?
So R.J. Bailey, the first thing that I recall most vividly is the auditorium. The seats are, I think, from before, well, actually probably from around my grandparents' time at this point. They look very uncomfortable, not to mention there's a lot of them that are no longer usable. The upper seating area is basically off limits at this point because of issues that have happened up there. Plumbing issues. There are areas in the building that are too hot, and there are areas in the building that are not hot enough. Overall, I think that building just needs a complete revamp or a replacement. Highview is not as bad, but it does have a lot of issues as well. Classroom sizes are issues in both, physical classroom sizes are issues in both schools. And there are heating and cooling issues there as well.
Thank you very much. And we pose the same question to candidate Lloyd Newland.
Yes, I'm on the facility committee, so I regularly monitor the conditions of the school. And R.J. Bailey is in poor condition. For instance, the auditorium needed new tiles, but we couldn't replace it because of the expense and the fact that every time you do any types of repairs in R.J. Bailey, you have to do an asbestos abatement, and that adds to the cost. So what we did was we carpeted. The chairs are in disrepair. The upper part of the balcony, we actually scavenged chairs to fix the ones down at the bottom. Right now, the paint is peeling in the auditorium, and in order to fix that, we have to do another asbestos abatement, and that costs a lot of money. The plumbing is in bad shape. Matter of fact, we had to put water coolers in for the kids because the water coming from the faucet was no longer
Thank you.
healthy to drink.
Next up, candidate Brizetta Griffith Bullock.
So regarding R.J. Bailey, I drive past that school building daily. And again, it's the aesthetics. I'm looking at the building. Before we repair it, I think that we need to see what we can do to make it look good as you drive by, the aesthetics. So what I would do is once the teachers leave, once the children leave, and you may think it's small, but I have all the shades the same length. When I walk past and I see shades up and down, it takes away from the building. The outside that has the announcements, it's foggy. So these are things that we can do right now. Yes, we have the auditorium. I sat in there, and you're right, the chairs, I can't fit. All of that needs to be done. Regarding Highview, it's safety. When you go there at night, when we go to our meetings, you need something to make you feel safe. Somebody can jump out the bushes. So I think that we need to have that addressed, maybe more lighting.
Thank you very much. Next up, candidate Tanya Dragic.
Okay, so my answer is whatever they said, and whatever I heard during all the discussions about the bond and why it's not possible to repair the school. I just want to say something to you about R.J. Bailey. This is a historic school, and this is a beautiful school. And this school is very special to me because I stood on its steps as a 6th grader and gave the valedictorian graduation speech. So I'm very fond of that building, and I hope that whatever is wrong with it can actually be repaired and renovated.
Thank you. Lastly, candidate Mayena Din.
I think it's scary that my daughter will be going there next year after hearing asbestos and pipes. So everything that they said, plus I must add, replace it. Because this is where our children are going to be going. And is that really acceptable? No. So I think that really we need to look at steps to spending money on a building that it clearly is a landmark to you, Tanya, but perhaps not the safe.
To others as well.
Not, maybe not the safest in the long run.
Thank you.
This question is directed towards candidate Tanya Dragic.
Oh my gosh, I'm so popular tonight. I love it.
How can you restore the science research program that was cut by the current administration?
This is something that we could talk for hours about. And I know a lot about these programs because I used to participate when I had my own lab. I used to take students regularly. So let me just briefly tell you what is the challenge of these programs. It's getting students accepted into labs. It's getting students to the labs. Then it's helping the students do the research and put together the presentation. And then finally, it's getting the students to compete in the fairs. So I have a multitude of ideas about how to make this work. And one of them is to actually strike up a partnership between the institution that I work for, which is the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, and the Greenburgh Central School District, to actually have a collaboration where labs would take students and perhaps even get some grant funding for this kind of a program. That's it in a nutshell, and whoever is interested, I'm happy to meet and talk about this. This is a great passion of mine. Thank you.
That sounds fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you very much, candidates. This will be the last question. And the question is this. With Greenburgh Central School District has placed 34th in Westchester County Public Schools. This information is from the Board of Education. How would you prioritize the needs for our students for improvement in grade point average? And we will start with candidate David Warner.
Okay, so this is a little bit of a repeat of the things that I've said before. I'm assuming that GPA means generically student achievement. And what we need to do is to make sure that we have programs in place that are challenging for all levels of students. So the students that are the high flyers need things to keep them challenged to the maximum of their capabilities. The students who are struggling need to have programs in place to help them as well. and the students who are in special education need to have programs in place for that. I think we're doing okay in terms of special ed, or at least that's the overall impression I have. The middle of the road crew, you've got the RTI process in place. We've expanded that to not only cover literacy but numeracy. That is, we have a math aspect to it. We also are implementing the universal design for learning, so there are multiple methods of teaching and learning and representing what you have learned. For the high flyers, we have the advanced learning program now. Since there are more programs in place for advanced learners going all the way up through elementary schools and into the secondary schools, we're hoping we don't have bright flight like we've had, and as a result of that, the test scores will start to go up, and everyone's morale will go up, and student achievement will improve.
Thank you. Next, candidate Ashley Pineda. How would you prioritize the needs for our students for improvement in grade point averages?
I think a lot of the framework for increasing grade point average has already been put into place with the addition of the IB full K-12. We have ALP programs that are helping with the students that can theoretically get a little more advanced. We have assisted reading programs and all that. I think we're at a point where we need to focus more on doing more assessments of our children throughout the year, and based off of those assessments, continue working on those smaller focus groups of assistants that we do have in the school districts right now. Long term, I think we also need to keep something in mind. Education truly isn't just about GPAs. It's not just about numbers on a paper.
10 seconds.
If we truly want these children to succeed, we need to raise their GPAs, but also continue everything else that we're already starting, all those initiatives to educate the child holistically.
Thank you. Next, we pose the same question to candidate Lloyd Newland.
We must prepare our kids from K to 12. And we do this by not teaching them or training them to pass the tests. We must educate our children. And I think if we provide the right program, the rigorous programs for these kids and educate them properly, then when they get to take the Regents test, they'll do very, very well. Over the last 3 years, we have put some programs in place to kind of tutor these kids, and we have seen a result in test score went up. Are we there yet? No. We still have a lot more work to do, and we need, and don't forget these classes cost money, so we need to put more monies in the budget to provide more advanced classes for these kids.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And next, candidate Brissetta Griffith Bullock.
Thank you. Well, college starts early, prep. College prep starts in pre-K, actually. So what I believe is that we need to prepare our teachers, because we can have all of the fabulous programs, but if the teachers are not prepared, then the programs will not be delivered as best they can. So staff development, ongoing professional development is the key. And I believe that we can do this. In addition, I think that our teachers need to go out, the teachers who are stellar, we need to have them go to conferences and become presenters so that we, Greenburgh, can be on the map for doing something wonderful. But again, ongoing staff development is the key. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we present the same question to candidate Tanya Dragic.
Okay, so I'm going to answer this question a little differently. Education, it's really not about test scores. It's about properly educating our kids, and that requires a trinity: the student, the parents, and the teachers. And this is a collaboration. It's an investment by all three parties and a kind of a leap of faith, right, that this can actually work. And yes, then that segues into support programs and academics, and I personally happen to be a believer of rigorous programs, high expectations, and also developing critical thinking. And when you do that, your students will do well.
Thank you very much. And to wrap this last question, candidate Milena Din, how would you prioritize the needs for the students for the improvement in grade point averages?
I agree with you, Tanya. This is multifaceted. It's really supporting our students, supporting the teachers, supporting programs, and for parents to have tremendous support for their kids. It's not just one-sided, and it's not just the schools, and it's not just the teachers or just the students. It's everyone working together. And then the support of the programs that comes in between. You cannot have it just one-sided. It's definitely multi-sided, and it wouldn't work any other way. And that's when you can implement even other programs that can be more for the kids to work harder for the 5 very high achievers, and providing the support for the other kids who need a little more.
Thank you. Our last question. There are members of the community who wish to have R.J. Bailey declared a historical building. Do you support this effort? Why or why not? We will begin with candidate Milena Din.
Supporting a building to become a historic landmark means that you can't really change it. You have to leave a large part of it, and I'm not sure how much of it is involved. But being that I am a parent, and Ashley, you have kids that are younger than me. You have bigger vested interest. I'm not so sure that I would actually support that, because at the end of the day, I'm supporting a great environment for our children, where they can be taught in a classroom that may be historic, but it may not be appropriate for their time at this time.
Thank you. I will repeat the question again. There are members of the community who wish to have R.J. Bailey declared a historical building. Do you support this effort? Why or why not? Candidate Tanya Dragic.
Yeah, I support this effort, and not necessarily because of my warm and fuzzy feelings for this building. I support this effort because history is important, buildings are important. And when I look at some of the school buildings in some of the adjoining districts and how old they are and how well maintained they are, and the children still go to these buildings and learn in them, I think to myself, wow, this is really incredible. This really says something about these communities, that they actually care about the schools, they maintain them, they invest in them, they keep them there as a testament to their long-term investment in education. So yes, I support that.
Thank you. Candidate Rosetta Griffith Bullock.
I would need to know more research. What would happen to our children if the building is deemed historical? Would they remain in the school building? If not, where would those children go? So I would need a plan before I make a decision.
Thank you. Candidate Lloyd Newland.
Well, you know, I value the education of our children. And while I'd like to preserve Bailey, if we do that, it would be impossible for us to make any improvement for our children. For the district to renovate that school, it would cost twice the amount of money that's needed to do this. And while I like the part of history, I'm on the board to service the children education. And if that's going to prevent me from modernizing that building for kids, I would like to see some studies done, and maybe we can sell the building with the stipulation that they keep, whoever buys it, keeps it in its form. We did that to Webb School when we sell Webb School.
10 seconds.
The buyer kept the integrity of the building, but they gutted it and made condos out of it. So it could be done, but if we were to go that route, it would be an expensive cost.
Thank you. Candidate Ashley Pineda.
So I think there's two facets to this piece. Is R.J. Bailey historical? Yes, it is. That doesn't mean we have to maintain it as a school. There's nothing saying we couldn't move forward with moving the children into another building and then declare the building historical and let some other entity take on its preservation. That's my belief.
Thank you. Candidate David Warner.
Okay, so what I've more or less committed to, I think in terms of, and this goes back to the whole bond and what we need to do for all the facilities, is to not make a decision at the front end, but to take it out to the public. So I'm not going to want to declare something historical before I have my feedback from the public, because I've already limited the options then. So I want to know what the public thinks and leave the options open to that point. I'm not averse to the other things that have been said here about making it a historical building if it doesn't end up being our school, depending on what we do. That's fine too.
Thank you very much. And that wraps up our Q&A section of for the other candidates. Next, we will move on to closing remarks. And as you know, candidates, this is your opportunity within 2 minutes to drive home key points of why the community should support you. And just bear with, let's set this. And we will start with candidate David Warner.
Thanks to the PTA Council for inviting us to participate in this event. If elected, I will work to maintain a positive learning environment, keeping students safe, secure, warm enough in winter, cool enough in summer, and providing good quality nutrition and competitive technology for 21st century education. If elected, I will work to improve academic achievement. Literacy is the key. Reading, writing, speaking, listening, and thinking skills open the door to learning for all students. We implemented the Advanced Learning Program out this year, have adopted the Wilson language approach, and are implementing the writing revolution across all grade levels. But there's more. We're living in the information age. Things are changing. The knowledge we pass on to our children today will be outdated tomorrow. So we must teach our children to keep seeking new wisdom throughout their lives as adults. Our children must be lifelong learners. Our district has implemented the International Baccalaureate program from kindergarten through 8th grade, which teaches skills and attitudes necessary to succeed in modern society while maintaining their humanity. This fall, we will implement the capstone, the part of the program that brings these skills to the adult level. The IB diploma program at Woodlands will include rigorous courses and tests in history, ELA, science, and math, an extended essay, a theory of knowledge course, and a 2-year WISE/CAS project, creativity, action, and community service. We will be one of 9 districts nationwide to implement IB from K through 12. If elected, I will work to improve communications with all district stakeholders. Our existing efforts include using our website, Facebook, our app, cable channels, the Falconer newsletter, and press releases. We have big events like the Spelling Bee, the Greenburgh Taste-Off, the Student Art Show, and the Science Extravaganza. We need to work more closely with civic organizations and promote meaningful dialogue between the district representatives and the public. If elected, I will continue to keep the budget below the tax cap while putting pressure on Albany to increase state aid. I'm David Warner. I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, candidate Ashley Pineda.
In speaking with district parents, I have been told, and I'll quote this, I have never seen lower parental involvement. Presence at assemblies and school events is at an all-time low. Parents feel they are no longer welcome in the schools, end quote. I will tell you from my personal experience, the private school community has an immensely high level of parental involvement. I would like to further understand from district parents why they feel they are no longer welcome. I think we can all agree that a school district can only be as strong as the community it resides in. Our children look up to us as their role models, their trusted advisors, their advocates, and yes, sometimes even as their own personal superheroes. I don't know what all of the challenges are and realize we can't always be there. But I ask you to help me understand. Tell me what are the issues that can be addressed. How can we make this better for our children? As a board member, my job would be to ensure I represent everyone in the school district. By everyone, I'm referring to the parents of children attending the schools, parents of children attending private schools, taxpayers with no children in schools, and last but not least, the children of our community. I believe I have given you many reasons why I would be a great choice for the Board of Education. If you feel that a fresh perspective, different approach, and someone with children in the district is how you would like to be represented, then your choice should be clear. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And next, candidate Lloyd Newland.
Thank you. As we all know, the Board of Education play a critical role in determining the policies that will improve education for all our children. I recognize that we are also a diverse community where education is paramount. But each year we face tough decisions on how to allocate our resources. Each year we face decisions like which programs will be funded or cut. Do we propose new initiatives or not? Do we move forward with a revised plan to renovate or consolidate our elementary school onto Wahlberg campus? These are all important and tough issues and decisions that the Board of Education is elected to resolve. I have the qualification and knowledge and experience needed to make this decision. If I'm elected, that's exactly what I will be doing. Also, if I am elected to the Board of Education, I will continue to collaborate with board members, superintendent, and all the stakeholders about policies, program, so that as a community, everyone will understand the value they bring to our school district. I will encourage the proposal of a new initiative to improve the education of all the children. I will listen to and reflect the concern of the community and work collaboratively again with fellow board members to improve the school image. Although budget season gets tough each year, the board was unable to produce a budget under, the board was able to produce a budget under the New York State tax cap. I believe together we can find creative solutions to address those challenges while maintaining superior quality of education we have come to expect. With new pupil personnel director and many new administrators in our school, I'm hoping that the Board of Education and the superintendent will produce some cost-effective innovation and new initiative. Thank you very much, and I hope you support me for re-election.
Thank you. Next up, candidate Brizetta Griffith Bullock.
Thank you. Thanks again to our PTA council, and thank you for your time. Community, you are a natural resource. Did you know that you're a natural resource? But you are. And my 40-plus years as an educator, I do understand the valuable partnership that you present to us between the community, the teachers, and administration. I do believe, again, that professional development is the key to helping our children. We have to have creative, smart, dedicated teachers. So I believe that we can do that through professional development. But we do need your help. If I'm elected, you will see that I am tenacious, I'm smart, I have total experience, and I am willing to get out and work and meet the community, bring you in, hear your thoughts and ideas. So I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, candidate Tanya Dragic.
So I'm going to end by thanking, I'm going to end by thanking the PTA for organizing this and for all of you, to all of you for coming here tonight. And this is what my take-home message is. I've lived in 4 countries across 3 continents, including Africa, Europe, and North America. and this was because of my father's job in the United Nations. It is through my family and my travels that I learned the importance of education. Education lifts hearts, it lifts minds, and it lifts earnings. A good education is the only way to make sure that our children become good citizens of the world. In fact, it's the only way to preserve the world. So my goal is to make Greenburgh into a major destination for young families because its schools offer a good education. No matter who you are, a parent or a resident without children, you will benefit if we have a successful school system. And not just because your property values will go up, but because you will leave a positive imprint on the future, because you will help your children, in the large sense of the term, become functional, responsible adults. So I thank you for listening. I thank you for your support and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And lastly, to bring it home, candidate Meliana Din.
I want to thank the PTA for hosting us, for you for being the moderator, and Sydney for keeping us on track. I think one of the biggest things that I've taken home from how I have seen, I've never seen so many crowds of Greenburgh come out to vote. Even when we have like 60% show up to pass our bond, our regular budget. But communication, I think it's one of the things that I think we need to drive home, making you a part of the conversation in every corner of the community. I'm a big advocate of equitable education for every student. I think that's the biggest and most important thing. We have nearly 2,000 students, perhaps, and every single one is different, one from the other. So I support wholeheartedly the teachers, the programs, the students, and you, the parents, and you need to be present. I don't know how you can be more present because we all have jobs, we have lives, we have everything happening, but I am committed to communicating and for you to tell us how you can be a bigger part of our community, of having your voice at the table, and not have you come out and say, I'm not supporting this because I don't have enough information, or because I haven't heard about it, or because you didn't tell me. So that's why I'm here, and I appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Now we will have closing remarks by Council President Ms. Muriel St. Armand.
I want to thank you both, moderators. You did a wonderful, fantastic job. Mr. Odin Magnum and Ms. Sydney Jackson, thank you very much. I also want to thank each of the candidates for coming out tonight and presenting and accepting questions from the public. You guys did a fantastic job, and good luck with your elections. I want to remind everyone that we are voting on the 21st of May, and take this opportunity to really learn about the candidates. If your questions were not asked tonight, please take the time to meet with each of the candidates on your own and be able to get your questions answered. Having said that, I want to thank you again, and good night. Thank you.